So you have the adulterous woman that was about to be stoned, and Jesus came and was just like, nope, it's not happening.
Right.
You're going to do that, right?
And not on my way.
Right. And then we create theology out of that moment and say, God is going to stop every stone from hitting our face. And then Stephen gets stoned.
Oh.
And then we're like, wait a minute, God, you didn't show up. I have trauma not because somebody did something wrong to me, but I had this expectation that was unrealistic of what you were going to do based on what you did.
You are listening to Above the Divide with Paula Danielle. The church has been divided for too long, and we're here to help us come together. This is season 1, where we're talking about having a faithful posture in a politically hostile world. Now, let's jump into today's show and continue to rise above the divide. Welcome back to the 4th episode of Above the Divide. I am Paula Danielle, and we have had an amazing season thus far, and this show will prove to be just another level to where we have been going. You might notice we are in a different studio setting today, but that's because we have our first couple here, and I am more than excited. I am roped up to welcome James and Tara Scott to Above the Divide.
No pressure.
I call them the Great Scots because being with them is nothing short of a great time. They're amazing. And eventually, I hope as we start talking, this smile I got becomes a little normal size. Right now, it's huge. Y'all, just a few words about my good friends, James and Tara. They are pastors here in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, where they pastor The Exchange. They also have a nonprofit called Freedom Within Walls, which is responsible for feeding and providing wraparound services for hundreds of kids throughout the year. Freedom Within Walls is in Charlotte, also in Greenville, South Carolina. So they are doing major ministry, not just on Sunday morning, but also meeting the practical needs of the next generation. Speaking of next generation, they are raising 3 wonderful children, Jaidyn, Joshua, and Journey, correct? Look at that.
Let's go.
And the trifecta of J's, and have 21 years of marriage under their belt. We're going to have an exciting time. So welcome you all to Above the Divide.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Y'all, if you may have picked it up that Tara is getting over some laryngitis. And so we praise God that you made it and he gave you enough voice for the podcast today. And whatever God does after that, we got the podcast. No, I'm not going to do that. She need her voice. They got 3 kids. She needs her voice. But I'm so excited that you were able to get the voice going for today. But yeah, she has a laryngitis. There's going to be tea here. But it's not going to stop all the laughs we're going to have.
Let's go.
All right. So let's jump in at Above the Divide. Y'all know we like to play games to get us going, to get us going. And so the game we're going to play today, since we have a married couple in the booth, is called She Would Say, He Would Say.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you all a series of questions, and you're going to write down what your spouse would say.
Okay.
And let's see how well you all know each other. Yeah, no cheating. No cheating. Let's see how well you all know each other. So let's just do a test question. On Tuesday night, what does the other one want for dinner?
Wait a minute. This is...
All right, on Tuesday night, what does the other one want for dinner?
Okay, how are we doing this?
The other one.
You all are gonna reveal it at the same time. Hold on, at the same time, y'all are gonna reveal it.
What does the other one want for dinner?
What does the other one want for dinner?
That's what we're doing, babe.
Okay, the other one.
Y'all see how this
Not
gonna
me.
go, right? No,
Okay.
no. What does Tara want
You have
for
to
dinner?
follow instructions.
No,
Because I
I'm
follow
writing
instructions.
you.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see if y'all know each other. 21 years. If y'all now listen, I hope I'm not starting no fights at the crib.
Nope.
Because I don't want no fights at the crib over this.
Nope.
All right. James, what are you writing?
I know,
dude?
it's
like
just a little
y'all going to
thing.
go to
What's going
Corral?
on?
What are you doing?
Hedging. First of all, the devil's a lot. I don't know. For everybody who goes to Golden Corral, God bless you. But grow up. Okay. That place is toxic. Anyway, here we go.
Don't get us sued.
Yeah, I know, right?
Are we ready?
Wait,
One,
let's-
two, three?
let's endorse this.
1, 2, 3. All right, fried chicken. Are the two?
She's
Yes?
absolutely right.
Okay.
First of all, but I'm not a statistic. Okay.
I need.
Calm down.
Oh, he's black.
No, I'm
He
black.
likes fried chicken.
I need a bell. Bing, 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 bing. Baked item veggies
And veggies.
and veggies.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Boom.
Come on.
Yeah. Let's go. 21,
Come
man.
on. Let's go.
21
let's go.
years.
Let's go.
Come on.
21 years.
Pay
Okay.
attention.
All right. You all are at the family reunion,
Oh my God.
at the family
Wait,
barbecue.
Whose family?
Whose family reunion?
Y'all don't do this to me.
We have
It
to.
matters.
It matters.
It matters.
It matters.
Y'all are at my family reunion.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right,
let's just
cool.
level the playing
Cool.
field. Y'all are at my family reunion.
Cool.
A line dance song comes on that you like lose your mind over and head to do the line dance.
Crap.
What is the song? So
Oh.
James, which song is Tara rushing the line dance for? And Tara, which song is James like, oh, I gotta go for the line
Oh.
dance? Which one is it?
Oh my God.
Which one is it? I know. It just got really warm in here.
It did. Oh man. Okay. Wow.
All right. Well,
Here
Great.
we go.
all right.
Here we go.
Are we
You
at
ready?
1, 2, 3?
3, 2, 1. Flip it. Hop, hop, one time.
Bam.
Well, that is not the song.
I don't care. I don't care. Hop, hop
Wobble,
one
but
time.
he's going the wrong way.
Yo, you know what? And that's absolutely not true. Okay.
I have pictures
Are
to
the
prove
songs correct?
Yeah. You know
What
the
is
song.
the hop song? What is it? Hop one.
it. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Uh-oh.
As soon as they play any type of line dance song, I'm there.
Okay.
For
the most
that
part.
one
For the
and
most part.
all
All
who
of
follow.
them.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
okay.
it's normally this
Can you do
biker
the
shuffle.
Can you do the Tamia one?
No.
No, me
But I'm
either.
going to stay
Yeah.
there so I can learn it. And I'll know it
Tamia's
for the
dance
next
doesn't
one.
feel like a line dance. It feels like
It
a whole
doesn't.
choreography competition.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's just a lot.
Feels like we're auditioning for something that we don't want to be a part of, and it's
I
a
don't
waste
know
of
it.
time.
I don't know it.
Grow up. Grow up. It's not a line dance. Enjoying
Wobble.
myself.
You can't go. You can't wobble.
No, we had a
Get in
marriage
there.
event, and we had a great time. I wanted to
he's
go my
gonna
own
go
direction
left first
because I
and
was the
then
leader in the
right,
room.
Sir,
Whatever
no,
That's what I did.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said
We're
no,
supposed to be
guys.
in unity, above the divide,
Oh, no.
unified together.
Sorta.
He's not able for that on,
No?
on the line dance.
I went the wrong way one time.
All right, listen. This is the last one, and this question right here will, at any family function, it will cause something, and so we have marriage counselors on standby for this question. Dominoes or spades?
Oh, come on, Paula. You just gave us
Dominoes or spades?
you gave us a layup.
Just make sure you put the right
You gave
answer
us a
because I don't want to
layup.
end the show after this.
No, you gave
Just
us a layup.
make sure.
I don't have to. We can.
Dominoes or spades?
Do we have to write?
You have to write.
I don't think we have to.
We
This is
just
how unified.
put it down.
Okay. Okay. All right.
This
I
is
won't be
why
difficult.
Put it
Tara had to
down.
come because James don't act right.
Come on, spades.
Spades and we're winning.
And
Yeah.
we're winning.
And we're winning.
We're undefeated.
Yeah, we don't
it's like a
lose.
whole thing.
Let me
We
tell
don't
y'all
lose.
something. Y'all people
21
from the
years, we don't
from
lose.
the East Coast don't know how to act because
Yeah.
West Coast folk are dominoes all day. We play balls.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's been nice having you all, but the show, it's been nice having you all, Philly.
I know,
Paula
right?
It's been nice
Paula
having
also
you.
just aged herself.
I
too.
was just going.
She said dominoes. I said,
No,
well,
no.
We
She
weren't going to tell
no, she
people you were
West Coast-
98.
She West Coasted herself.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Asian
Yeah.
and West Coast.
Wow,
West Coasted
we
herself.
play bones
It's
on the
okay.
West
We ordering
Coast.
pizza?
Spe-
Pizza? We're ordering pizza. Domino. Just it doesn't make sense. Grow up, Paula.
No.
Is
Is that gonna be your? Is that
That's
is
his
that your
catchphrase.
phrase?
I think
that's
Grow
the
up?
thing. Just today.
That's a thing.
Just
Because you're
today.
special to me.
Y'all,
That's it.
on the next episode of
Yeah.
Above the Divide, we'll have shirts that say "Grow Up."
Grow up.
Grow up.
Spades. Okay, well, I will say this, and us people of Melanation
Yes.
are not allowed to not know how to play spades.
You got to know how.
But y'all won't teach us.
We will.
I will
Dude.
teach you.
We've
You will
taught
okay.
many.
I don't
okay?
trust you.
I will teach you.
We
You will
taught
without
many.
talking about me.
No. We
See
gotta
what
talk
I
about
mean?
you.
See
You
what
have
I
to-
mean
you
about
gotta
the
give us
divide?
I won't
grace.
talk about you. I won't talk
Thank you,
about
Tara.
you.
But you have
And
to
I'll
think
teach
about
you.
it.
Also,
I
at the
have to
end
think. I
of
didn't
Above the
wanna
Divide, we
lie.
will have an altar call for James' salvation today.
What?
For James' salvation today.
Oh, my
Listen,
goodness.
let's jump into today's episode because we need to talk about, yes, this was fun with the boards and some fun topics. But in actuality, there are things that happen in friendships and families and topics that come up that are not always so fun. How do you know when you hit on something that somebody is not okay with talking about? You're in a group conversation with a bunch of people and you make a comment and something happens and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. How do you know that?
It's about that shift, right?
Can you see it in their face, their body language? Is it
shift.
energy? What are you looking for to go, oh, there's something here?
I think it depends on who the person is. Because if you have a person who's very outspoken and they are self-declared, I'm going to speak my mind, then they're going to say their words. But then you have the element of personality that's going to be like, now I'm not saying anything.
Right.
I'm withdrawing myself.
How do you deal with that? When the quiet person shuts down and the conversation's over unless you're going to talk to yourself, what's the next thing you say? Do you address it or do you just change the subject? What happens?
I think for us, the next thing that we do more than say, it's kind of when we see things are not comfortable anymore, I think we try our best to examine, survey the room and be like, we got to have a personal conversation just to make sure they're okay.
Got it.
Right? So we got to always make sure that we're making time and make sure that the topic of the conversation doesn't become the idol that distracts us from the heart of the person. So
That's good. The topic of the conversation doesn't become the idol that distracts us from the person or our points. Yeah. We tend to raise topics and we act like we're flexible, but oftentimes they become idols. How do we know when a topic or a perspective has become an idol?
Ooh.
How do we know that?
Well, even in the Old Testament, when idols were elevated, that thing had to be brought down.
Yes.
And it took something to bring the idol down. So I think that when people are planting their flags on certain things, we know it has become an idol because it's not very simple for that thing to be brought down. And it may require prayer, it may require, but there's going to be some type of requirement to bring that thing down.
It can't just happen with a conversation or a comment. It's cemented.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's my favorite word, concretized.
There you go.
Concretized.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about you, James? How do you know when an idol has been erected?
When truth no longer matters, we are living in a time where I'm just going to speak for the church world.
Please.
Where people are now redefining scriptures. They're redefining moments. They're wanting to be a lot more discerning and prophetic than they actually are.
Come on
instead
now.
of examining the fact that we all have unhealed spaces and we need to walk accordingly. And it's not to say that we are to be spineless and cowardly, right? But humble enough to know, hey, and I told my wife I was going to use this corny example. Growing up in Philly, if you grew up in South, if you grew up in North, if you grew up in West or Mount Airy, everybody had their take on their favorite cheesesteak.
Okay, I'm excited about that.
It's not Geno's and Pat's. Grow up.
Wow.
Okay?
Please don't leave above the
tourist
divine.
attractions. Anyway, but I would literally plant my flag on this is the greatest cheesesteak. You'll know what you're talking about. And then you open yourself up because you don't have another option. And it's just like this other cheesesteak was amazing. And you're like, this is now the best cheesesteak. And it's just like, yo, grew up differently. Everyone grew up, with different experiences. So it was just a reminder to humble and understand that there's a need to respect other people's perspective, but still allowing our hearts toward this fact that truth still trumps it all.
So is truth relative based on perspective?
Oh, Paula, how much time do we
It's
have?
true. I mean, go for it. We can do a part 2.
We need a part
It's
2.
relative based on perspective?
The truth that we know and stand on,
Yeah.
that Jesus Christ said that he is the truth.
Right.
Yeah. He's
Way.
the way, the
Way.
truth, and the life.
Right.
So anything biblically based and properly contextualized
That
is truth. And
That.
that's where we are going to stand.
Because there are a lot of things written in the Bible that are not godly. There are a lot of things people did in the Bible that God was not co-signing on.
Yeah.
Right.
So just because you say it's biblical does not mean it's godly.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so notice, Pastor Tara, that
Right.
not only needs to be the truth according to Jesus, but it needs to be the Bible kept in context. One of the things, an adage that I've heard over and over is that text without context is pretext. and you will get a lie.
Amen.
So context is key to determining the truth.
Sure.
Where we get truth clashing with perspective, clashing with experience, clashing with my past and my culture, that becomes a very real thing.
Yeah.
Because truth, but also like the truth in concert with my experience, we can't always ignore that. And oftentimes I've seen that come into play in situations where somebody has been hurt.
Sure.
Where somebody has experienced trauma. It either causes more trauma or causes fear, causes some. So how do we deal with somebody's experience that leads to, and probably validly so, leads to their position on something, but that position may not be true.
Right.
How do we deal with that experience? What do we say to people?
I was going to say that experience is there to always explain, but it's not always there to lead and guide. And it's just like, well, it can shape who you are. Right?
Talk, sir.
It can shape who you are, but it shouldn't always give experience permission to shape who you are. It should only be given permission to explain who you are, where you came from, why you feel like the cheesesteak on this side of town is better than the cheesesteak there, right? Why you're a little bit fearful to pursue relationships in certain contexts. So, we have to get back to just allowing truth to trump.
You can explain, but not shape. Yeah.
Cannot always lead.
Yeah.
You have great experiences,
yeah,
brought you to where you are. The other side of that is you've also faced bad experiences, but that also led you to where you are.
Yeah.
And because somewhere in that path, you also encountered truth.
Yes.
And that truth, you say that truth is Jesus Christ, but that truth allowed you to trump the experiences, and you're still able to not just move, but thrive in your spaces. So,
good. Let me ask, Tara, let me ask you, how do, when our experiences have been so traumatic that we can't see truth, where does somebody start?
I think that one of the things that we underestimate and undervalue, since our society is like a microwave society, everything is quick, is that we devalue the element of the journey. Ooh. And so it's the dynamic of there are things, that maybe today I don't see.
Yes.
I don't see that.
Yes.
Maybe today I really don't thoroughly even understand the concept of the goodness of God.
Come on.
Right? So I'm understanding that at some point, if I make the choice that, okay, this is true, and I'm going to choose that what the Lord says is true.
Yeah. Let
me find something to partner with. Let me dwell in that truth. Let me feast on that. Let me grow in that.
Yes.
And I think that, element of the Bible is so contrary to the culture because everything in the Bible is seed planted.
Yes.
And it being watered. And you had three girls, come home with that plastic cup that they done made for Mother's Day, and it got the seed in
that
it.
Dixie cup.
Somewhere in the Dixie cup, their name is on it. One letter is written backwards for sure. But you come home with the concept.
Yes.
That societally, we do not apply this to our life.
That's good, babe.
But from Genesis to Revelation, the Lord is so intrigued with the concept of this seed, and we don't want to wait for it.
You know what? Society does it. The church, I fear, often does it too. So what do we do as individuals in the church, the capital C church, that says, no, I need you to be this way now. I appreciate the seed, but I want you to be this way now.
Oh, help us, Lord.
Help us. And help us, Tara, with this answer. Because I just threw the whole ball at you.
Here's the thing. I'm telling you. Go back to that cup, right?
Okay.
Your girls put their finger in that cup to see if the seed is still in there. And let me move it around and see if I can get something going so this thing will grow and hurry up. So I think that there's a balance. I think that pastors, it's very difficult to look. We have this vision where the cup comes to us And although it may just be a seed, we see the flower.
Right.
Like present the cup with the seed and we like, oh,
It
I
can
like
be.
this flower.
Bouquet is all in our minds.
Yes. And the sheep don't see the flower. They just see and know the brokenness, and they've become well acquainted with that. They see the dirt. And so I think it's difficult to then, in harmony with, I see the flower, but you're stuck in your dirt.
Yeah.
Although I see the flower, I'm not trying to fast forward this flower, but I also need you to understand, because you have, are different, right?
Yeah.
You may have one element of person who's just like, I'm never going to see that I can be the flower. But then you have the person who's in the dirt.
Yes.
And they come and you see the dirt cup and you see the flower too.
Yes.
But they think they're at the flower. And you like, baby, we need to go through
We got some more journey. We got some steps.
We need you to embrace the budding.
Yeah.
Need the roots to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or we might need to pluck that thing up. And
Yes.
But people may not be interested in that process or journey because, as you say, church has either anointed someone quickly already. So everyone thinks, okay, saved, I'm here. So now put me in, coach, and give me a title.
Listen, there is a danger with the put me in, coach, and give me a title.
Yeah.
There is a danger with that. When character is not more important than charisma,
Come on.
then we actually, as the people giving them platform,
Yeah.
other people at risk.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going after their charisma.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't care about their character.
Paula,
yeah.
that's where we become the culprit.
Yeah.
When we're putting these titles and we're putting the prophet and the bishop and the apostle and everything else in these categories, and no wonder why everyone is subconsciously aiming for bigger things than the thing that they were actually destined to be.
Yeah.
We got to celebrate the small flower.
Yeah.
I think that would give people hope to remain faithful in whatever space that they are in, not go any beyond that.
Yeah.
Let's turn to this idea of trauma versus fear. Is there a distinction between people who are acting out of their trauma and people who are acting out of fear? Is there a distinction? Do they go together? Where do they cross? Is there a conversation that needs to be had between trauma and fear, or are they distinct?
I think there may be times where trauma informs fear. So that would give them a distinction. And I think that trauma is very real, where fear
Yes, it's perceived. It's
could
in the
be
mind.
perceived. Exactly.
Yeah, trauma informs fear, but then the way the mind works is let me avoid that.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me avoid that at all costs. Even if the cost is a lie, let me avoid that. So when trauma informs fear and we have fear of any type of conversation, fear of a policy, fear of a person, fear of a political party, how do we begin to work through that?
That's a good question.
How do we work through fear?
I think that we have to examine our desired outcomes.
Okay.
What is it that you're really after? Because that also informs why you're fearful, or why the trauma is still unhealed, because you're looking for an outcome, and we forget that God only called us to effort. So outcome is up to him. Efforts.
Wait, let it breathe. God only calls us to effort.
He only called us to effort.
The outcome is up to him.
It's up to him. So you have the adulterous woman that was about to be stoned, and Jesus came and was just like, nope, it's not happening.
Right,
You ain't gonna do that, right?
Not on my watch.
Right. And then we create theology out of that moment and say, God is going to stop every stone from hitting our face. And then Stephen gets stoned. Oh. And then we're like, wait a minute, God, you didn't show up. I have trauma because somebody did something wrong to me, but I had this expectation that was unrealistic of what you were going to do based on what you did. And it's not, and then we say God is not faithful and he's not. And then, so I think everything starts with what's your desired outcome, and be very honest. right? He can handle the fact that you're mad at him because he didn't show up. The wife's voice, or Josh, our son, he's in his senior year of football, and I'll be transparent. So we're in the middle of talking about faith while wrestling with our faith. And his leg got rolled up on in a game. The first x-ray said no broken bones, and then last Friday they said it's fractured, and it's going to take 6 weeks. So we're like,
after oiling the boy up on the way out the door.
No, seriously.
Honestly, he was
anointing oil.
He was going to the
Honest
game,
moment.
and I was like, hey, come back.
Come
Come on, Mom.
I was
it
like,
was an
come back.
intentional moment of prayer. She said, today is weird. Intentional moment of prayer. So what happens when you are able to discern that this is different?
Right.
And you're like, of course, you're discerning because God's like, this is the opportunity to cover.
And
this,
it still happens.
right? God's not less faithful. It's life.
So what do we do with our hope in that? Because a lot of people leave hope after they have prayed against cancer and the diagnosis still comes back that they have cancer. They have prayed against a broken bone and they have prayed for a child and they have not conceived yet. And hope feels low.
Yes.
How do we approach God when God has disappointed our expectations?
Yeah.
We have mismanaged expectations based on the presentation of the gospel. So
Mismanaged expectations based on the presentation of the gospel. Come on.
we do, because we all about the same age.
We are.
When I got to know the Lord, I knew that as a woman of God,
The Lord, L-O-R-D-T.
scream in the mic and you shake your head and you turn around 3 times. Twice.
Right.
You slap your neighbor a high five and God's
Gonna do it.
My God.
Yeah.
So as that became lucrative, the gospel, then
That's why I love you.
She said lucrative.
Yep.
I'm
As
just
it became
saying.
lucrative.
the people were rolling, baby. That's where the Jets and the Roses
As that
and
became
Come on,
they
lucrative.
were rolling, baby, because
on.
now I'm providing false hope into
Right.
the people.
Right.
So if I ignite the hope and now you gonna give me $50 and then you got the money line, I'm not gonna be outdone.
Y'all.
So I'm gonna get in the $100 line.
My God.
Because money cometh to me now. So if I am grounded foundationally, and this is how my God operates, then my disappointments, they're far too much for me and my understanding of how I've learned the Lord. So then maybe he's not real. Not maybe I haven't learned the Lord right.
It couldn't be
Yeah.
my fault.
No, not at all.
Maybe those who taught me,
Right.
My God.
we may not see it from that perspective. So we'll just cancel. Jesus is canceled. He's canceled. And now let me find something that's real quick that's going to serve me well, because my religion is already inundated in the serve me well society.
Wow. You just said a mouthful. And we as leaders in the church have to be accountable to not sell people false hope. What happens when our hope and our healing are tied to political positions? Because the only hope for the next generation is this one political position. Just this one. If it doesn't happen, then the whole next generation is blown. What happens when my hope is tied to a political position?
Want to go?
Sure. Let's go. And you know how I'm going to kick this off?
Come on.
We got to grow up. No, and what's crazy?
I'm going to change the title of this episode.
We got to grow up, including myself. We all have to grow up. But no, I think this is a great opportunity to shed light on the fact that we actually now have 2 sides doing the same thing. Because you have the one side that's like, yo, come on, if this doesn't happen. And then you have the other side based on trauma and fear that are saying, we have to stop the other side from, and it's just like, y'all, there has not been one king in the Bible.
Come on.
One evil-hearted king, one rogue-hearted king that was ever able to stop anything that God desired to do. So why are we tripping now? This is not the most important election. You know why?
Yeah.
Because this kingdom that they serve is of this world, right? We don't serve that kingdom. So there has to be some sort of, I want to say reiteration, but a come to Jesus, right? Like coming back to the fact that you've made your political party, let's just say it, an idol. And it's not just one side. It's both sides. You got the ones that are screaming the loudest and the ones that are fearful because of the ones screaming the loudest. And I believe that there's so much more that God can do with our little bit of faith if we just simply put that little bit of faith in him. So I think we just got to get back to what is eternal and really just get our eyes off of, again, going back to what is your honest desired outcome? Right? Yes. What is it that you're looking for, but also what are you looking to avoid? Because we do understand, and our daughter Jaidyn really helped us to understand this. She said, never forget that there's a generation of sharecroppers that are still existing, that their parents and their grandparents were in these slavery spaces. She said, never forget they're scared of what we could return to.
Yes, absolutely.
If one side, and it allowed us to see, oh man, maybe here we were being a little bit too dismissive to the actual, again, experience explaining, right? And operating from what we now know, and then saying, hey, listen, you don't have to worry about that because we're going to die early if they try to put us back in slavery. I'd rather be with my ancestors than to be submissive to whatever you think you're about to put us back through, right? No, but in all honesty, it's just getting back to just making sure that our hope is not in man. And I know that it sounds very cliche-ish, but it is the truth. We've put too much stock in the right and the left, and the system has always been broken.
Always.
So I get it. I don't like how loud one side is, but I also don't understand and don't like how fearful the other side is.
That's good.
We can do more together when we make Christ first. So
that's good. Where does hope meet action? Where does hope meet action? Because our hope is in Jesus Christ.
Sure.
Absolutely. This is not our home. But there are some things that we've been called to deal with while we're here.
Absolutely.
And so where does hope meet action?
I think, my sister Paula, that you've done this well as far as your hope meeting action.
Yeah.
The book that you're written, plug.
It'll be in the description, dear sister.
But that's a prime example of hope and action meeting by opening spaces of candid conversation, by allowing people to share their heart, even going back to what James just said, being able to bear one another's burdens, to be able to maybe offer,
may I offer you
another thought on this, and to be able to slow down long enough to be able to go toe to toe with anxiety and the things that are big giants, because behind all of the things we're seeing, we already have a culture who has been made anxious. Especially over the past 4 years. Everybody's got anxiety. And I'm not belittling, because I'm not being dismissive at all, but I'm saying, what would it look like for more people to do what you're doing and to have courageous conversations and to be able to open forums for let's talk about this instead of getting the bullhorn and then you shout and all of the things you think are right, and then I'm going to shout back and my bullhorn, or better yet, or I'm going to post. You know what I mean? And we're just warring with each other as opposed to come let us reason.
You said a really helpful phrase. May I offer you another perspective? May I offer you another way of saying? May I offer you? It's very different posture than, well, you need to think about. Well, that's not the way I see it. Well, the may I, almost it puts the ball in their court even before we say anything. It asks for permission to express your opinion. Even if your opinion is truth, it asks for permission. I think we discount the many times Jesus asked for permission. Do you want to be made whole? Like Jesus didn't just go about doing stuff, right? He asked for permission. If God's not going to force himself on us, if salvation is a choice, if sanctification is a choice, if the journey with him is a choice for God, the creator of the universe, then maybe we could, dare I say, learn something about may I offer you.
Perhaps. But I think that the posture of our heart in asking that question also needs to be open to receive response as well, because we're not supposed to be asking that question from the position, seated in position of, well, I'm right about what I'm offering. So I think that there's so much humility that's needed in those conversations, because I want you to prepare your heart too, because I have something that I would want to share. And I think that that's why I went to your course of action with your book, because it's both sides.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you all feel like the political tension has raised over the last 8 to 12 years, or have we always seen political tension and then now maybe we're seeing it differently and there's something different about it? I always hear people go, it's the most important election, or this is the greatest political tension we've ever experienced. And I'm like, I wasn't alive in 1964, but I can imagine that there was probably some So is the tension really as bad as people say, or is something else fueling that?
I believe it's probably been this vital in years past. Just the acknowledgement of the African American voter.
Right.
Historically, would vote Republican since the days of Abe Lincoln. That's important that you vote, because they wanted to get out of slavery. And then in 1936 with Roosevelt and the New Deal.
It was important
that they vote not necessarily for Roosevelt, but for the New Deal. So I think that there's been vitality. Everything's been vital each political year. But I think that the propaganda now has exacerbated everything, or as you're speaking of the driving force, there's a whole demonic evil behind them driving the fear factor this time. And I do believe is exactly what you said. We haven't been alive for all of the elections. But I remember specifically within our church construct, the first time I just saw politically ugliness is when race entered the realm of politics.
Yes. Then the presidential race specifically.
Race of politics.
Okay, that's the first time you remember seeing
That's my first time.
What about you, James? Do you think it's always been this volatile, or do you think there are other things pushing it this time? What are your thoughts on the volatility?
Oh, well, anything that's volatile, it is up and down. It's just all over the place. So I think this has been the highest it's been recently, I'll say, right? Let's not forget that JFK was murdered. Just not
Let's not pass over Kennedy.
Right. We understand Trump was shot, but Kennedy was murdered.
Right.
So I think politically, it was at an all-time high then too, right? I think a lot of this is propaganda. It's the propaganda machine that is, because it's about agenda. It's not about the people, right? Like politics on paper, it's supposed to serve us.
Yeah, it's
right?
supposed to.
It hasn't in years. And real leadership understands the importance of not just what you say, but how it can be interpreted.
Yes.
Right? How people can receive it.
Yes.
And so you end up having civil conversations. And side note, hey, we're not left, right, you know this, but shout out to at least, thank you for the attempt, Vance and Waltz at the VP debate. We were just like, they're very civil today. This is very opposite. It was very calm. But I think that it's been at an all-time high as of recent because of, again, the fear and the trauma. Not to beat a dead horse, but what is it that drives us to screaming and screaming our points and not having any desire to investigate what it is that you actually believe? How did you come to your perspective on politics and what's best for the country? We're not interested in that. Everything is fear. So that's when it turns into violence. That's when it turns into the Capitol being overtaken. That's when it turns into things like that, because people, and it's weird, but it's truth, right? The thing that got Eve to bite the apple, this notion that God was hiding something from her.
Yes.
This notion that there's something unfair being done, and it causes me to want to investigate why you said I can't have this fruit. So, because I think it might be unfair on the other side. So literal, that moment in the garden translates to all of the overt frustration, racism, bigotry, all those things that we're operating and seeing today. But we have to isolate ourselves for a second, I think, is really part of the solution. And I'm not saying go in your house by yourself, but I'm talking about like really surround yourself with like-minded folk and really get back to the basis or the bottom of why you believe that God placed you here. It wasn't to cause a divide.
It wasn't.
Right?
It wasn't.
It was to raise yourself above it and create a sense of unity. So
yes, that divide is happening in families. It's happening amongst lifelong friends. It's happening in churches. What are some suggestions to healing those fractured relationships?
I'm going to go back to having safe spaces to have conversations. I think that it's important because, once again, culture-wise, people are not running to coffee houses to sit down and let's talk.
Right.
And I think that we can say things and it gets out to a million people based on how we say it. But wouldn't it be great if everyone were concerned with, let me just talk to one person and let us strengthen this relationship, the bond of unity. And I don't know.
Just reminding ourselves that we're the ones that are important, right? It's not the view. And you can't have a view if you don't have a person. If no one is existing, there are no views. Everyone's dead.
Right.
So the most important thing in this matter is the ones I'm sitting in a room with, right? And I have to rest. That's where we have to plant our flag. You are the most important thing. It is not who we vote for. It's you. When whoever takes the White House, we're still going to be rocking. We're still going to be at the coffee shop together. We're still going to be sitting next to each other at church. We have to figure out a way to love each other in spite of our differences, in spite of, the things that media is trying to push to break our unity up. So, it's good.
Before we get your last comments for this show, we have one more round of boards. One more round. So pick your boards up. Before we have their final comment, I have to ask this question that is diehard question. In the same bedroom after this question.
We don't need.
Yeah, I know that's right. All right, 21 years. Ain't nobody left yet. Ain't nobody leaving. Amen.
Right.
All right, Jersey or Philly?
Oh, man.
Above the divide, I'm asking them, is it Jersey or is it Philly?
But without it, would we?
If you have to rock,
or
if there are two options, is it going to be Pennsylvania or is it going to be New Jersey?
That's easy.
This is what I want to know. Philly or Jersey? For this round, put what you would say.
Okay.
Are you Philly or are you Team Jersey?
Thank you. It'll be very obvious.
Put what you would say for this round.
What I'm saying was a song.
You ready?
I know what. I should have added another rule. Y'all, I'm sneaking looking at Tara's board. I should have added another rule. Go ahead. 3, 2, 1. Philly, period. It unifies.
No.
It unifies the
It
area.
unifies we're in the area.
You all
song,
have
though.
just seen the heart.
You said it wrong.
Phil, period?
No, PHILL is a rap. I'm sorry. She did it
That's
herself.
a rap from who?
Did it herself.
Rough Riders.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay.
Yes.
PAVE area. That's what Eve said.
I know EVE. I know I have all of Eve stuff,
Okay.
but Rough a little bit lower
Oh.
as a whole than EVE. Who's that girl? Nah. Because Eve's that girl.
Yeah.
Nah. You all, before we get out of here, Pastor Tara Scott, would you leave us with one final comment?
Yes. The greatest of all of these is love.
Come on.
I do feel as though we just need more love. And if where we stand is love, then what we give should be out of love.
Yeah.
I'm Tara. I've approved that message.
That's real talk. Y'all even saw on our board, it unifies the area.
Yeah.
Like she picked Itty.
Yeah.
Based on it unifies the area. But that's you, 100%. Every day of the week.
Yeah.
That's you.
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
My brother, Pastor James Scott. James, what's the final word for us?
I'm going to go with 1 Timothy 6:6. Godliness and contentment is great gain. Change the scorecard. Instead of us fighting for a new America, try to figure out ways to improve the current one. I think we're going to be all right. I really do. So, love y'all.
And Pastor Tara Scott today, and there is so much richness that they have given us. But let me just put a bow on this conversation with this. The greatest of these is love. When we are willing to love our neighbor more than our opinions, when we are willing to love Jesus Christ more than the idols that we have created, when we are willing to love even the next generation more than our current comfort, then we can actually work for and put action behind not creating a new country, but bettering the one that we have been given. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Above the Divide. As always, if this has been helpful to you, don't forget to click like, click share, and we'll see you next. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Above the Divide. Above the Divide is sponsored by Cohesion, a church creating community, unifying the body, and equipping people. If this content is helpful, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone else. We look forward to be together again on Tuesday for our next episode.